We have 2026 and possible to trade an ETF with leverage 24/7 on chain without KYC, just with your wallet.
Is it just the dominating Perp DEX in crypto? Do you think it will mostly be a competition between Hyperliquid and its centralized counterparts, or with the rise of HIP-free, markets.xyz, and like Hyena, is Hyperliquid going to become the house of all finance?
Pretty soon, where the HIP-3 volume and RWA volumes will outpace the crypto volumes on Hyperliquid. And this is also crucial because it helps Hyperliquid to sustain its model also if like crypto volumes go down in the bear market. With the cash secured put, that's a great way to basically buy assets for cheap. So you just set a price where you are willing to buy Bitcoin for, and if you go down to that price, you buy Bitcoin.
GM, and welcome back to episode 76 of the Odyssey Pod. Very much looking forward to this one. Today we are joined by probably the number one voice in the Hyperliquid and HyperEVM ecosystem, Tobias Reisner. Great that you're joining us. How are you doing?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm doing great, and looking forward to talk about Hyperliquid today.
Absolutely. So, we just found out a few weeks ago that we're both Berlin-based. So very cool to see the community still being alive and maybe even growing over here. So, could you start by giving us a brief intro about your background, how you found into crypto, and what led you to focus on the Hyperliquid and Hyperliquid ecosystem?
Sure. So I've been in crypto for the last 5 to 6 years, full time in crypto. Starting from betting on some altcoins during 2020, 21, then DeFi. DeFi summer happened, and it was a fun time. And usually I've been doing a lot of research, but never really shared it with many people. Just with a small group, and then I started to publish more research on Twitter. So, and this kind of took off. So I kept at it. And there was a time where you could argue that some DeFi projects have real value. You can discuss this. Also nowadays, not so sure anymore. But there was a time where there have been ways to like put a value on DeFi projects. And Hyperliquid was kind of a coincidence. So I've been trading on and off on different exchanges over the years, and I think it was like 23, around end of 23, when Binance blocked Germany from perp trading. And so I looked for a different exchange, and naturally I wanted to have a decentralized exchange. I was familiar with GMX and others before, but then I kind of stumbled upon Hyperliquid. Started to use Hyperliquid. Points program happened. Then TGE happened, and I wanted to share the value of something like Hyperliquid with others, and started to share content on or about Hyperliquid.
Yeah, your account really rose to a lot of popularity really fast once Hyperliquid took off. And I think that for crypto and DeFi projects, you brought a rather new perspective to the table, because you actually look at the fundamentals. And I think you found a very good match there with Hyperliquid, where you actually had data that you can pull from to arrive at some more established and fundamental metrics. So how do you think your whole approach has shaped your reach and growth so far? And what do you think sets you apart from a lot of other voices on crypto Twitter?
I'm not sure I'm so special, but thanks for the flowers. I think there is a lot of value in the data, and it always has been the case that you can look at the data, but for most projects, at some point, you realize that what you want it to be, it just isn't. There are many great DeFi projects. Many of them make good money, but then you look at the token design, you look at some specifics, and you realize, okay, this just doesn't make sense. It's a good product, but doesn't make sense to invest in it, in the token. And With this kind of background, Hyperliquid was a nice breath of fresh air. Like there have been many projects that tried to do something similar, but then with the TGE of Hyperliquid, you realize, okay, they're not just saying we're doing something for the community, they actually meant it. So this was new, and I just wanted to I saw, okay, being part of the community, I want to kind of invest my time into this, and started to do video content, and also a lot of the basic tweets, just posting like the Hyperliquid did this amount of buybacks today, which is just an easy tweet, but many people like this data. So I think there was kind of a time or a niche for this kind of information. Probably still is, because now in the bear market, nobody puts effort in content. So if you want to start to share content on whatever stuff in crypto, I think it's a good time to build now. Competition is less, but also eyeballs are also less, because right now not many people care. I don't know what sets me apart. I wouldn't say I'm so special. So yeah, I just keep posting on Hyperliquid and try to help the builders in the ecosystem. This is what makes the most fun for me. I've been traveling a lot last year, to all the different events to meet people around Hyperliquid, which kind of always was this reminder, in times where I was not sure if it's the right path to focus on Hyperliquid, because of course this is a risk. If I focus and just tweet about Hyperliquid stuff, if Hyperliquid blows up, my account is probably done for. So of course there's some risk, but with every meeting and every event I met the people building in Hyperliquid, it was a confirmation that it's the right place to be at right now.
Ever since the Hyperliquid TGE and the rise to fame of Hyperliquid in the industry and kind of becoming that behemoth in the perp space, how has your thesis evolved over time? Has anything changed since the TGE? And also in terms of metrics, what are you looking at right now that might be different from what you've been looking at a year or two ago?
I think pre-TGE there was a lot of assumptions and a lot of dreams of hype token reaching X amount of money or per point. Many of those things became a reality, and I think faster than most people expected. It's really hard to say what changed. I think with every big milestone, not just the milestone, but also with challenges for Hyperliquid, my trust in Hyperliquid grew. There have been many events where Hyperliquid could have failed. We had 1010, we had the pre-1010, we had Jelly Jelly attack, we had different amount of attacks from competitors trying to challenge Hyperliquid to become better. So, and at every on any event that happens, they prove that they know what they're doing. So my trust just grew, and now it's kind of an interesting position. Hyperliquid achieved a lot already, but will this be the niche where we operate in? Okay, it's the biggest perp tax in the world, doing a lot of, or at least a significant amount of volume compared to centralized entities, and now also bringing innovation. I think the big question right now is how big can this go, and how big can this become, and how much time will it actually take?
On that note, what is your perception of Hyperliquid right now, and where would you like to see it go over the next months, but also over the next years? As you just alluded to, is it just the dominating perp DEX in crypto? Do you think it will mostly be a competition between Hyperliquid and its centralized counterparts, or with the rise of HIP free markets.xyz and Hyena, and like all of these different exchanges and interfaces built on top of Hyperliquid, and a broader diversification of RWAs, tokenized equities, etc., is Hyperliquid going to become the house of all finance, which quite a few blockchains have attempted before, but never succeeded at?
I mean, the plan from the beginning was for Hyperliquid to become the blockchain to house all finance. I think, like, from the team perspective, they don't focus, at least it seems so. We don't really know what they think, but it seems from the outside, they don't focus or they don't see their centralized counterparties as the competition. Like, I don't think they see like a Binance or OKX or whatever as, okay, that's the competition we need to crush. They already achieved that by just building the better product. Like, why are people still using Hyperliquid even though there is no point season and you can farm other points on other platforms? Because it's the better product in many ways. And now, like, where I see this going, I think we will get to a point pretty close or pretty soon where the HIP3 volume and RWA volumes will outpace the crypto volumes on Hyperliquid. And this is also crucial because it helps Hyperliquid to sustain its model also if like crypto volumes go down in a bear market.
In terms of HIP3, I think it was Silver a few weeks ago that probably reached over 1 billion, and there was some analysis, I think, by one of the Blockworks research guys that the market depths and the execution of the tokenized silver actually rivaled that of the leading traditional silver exchange. So where do you see the most growth right now? Do you see it in these RWAs? Do you see it in tokenized equities? I think in just looking at the crypto market, while everybody is more and more optimistic of the technology actually being used and integrated, the crypto native and industry native assets themselves have kind of lost out in excitement and interest. So I could very well see a future where the lead and the most gathering new attention will be captured by traditional assets that are being tokenized on chain.
For sure. Like, I think right now it's a mix. Like, we've seen the like gold and silver craze, which now is a little bit like cooled off. But during the time when silver went to like $110, there was, I think, Hyperliquid did like 2% of the global silver volume. And now what we see now, we see those other HIP3 markets diversifying, like MarketX was at, TradeX was at. Every day they register new tickers so they can launch new markets. And now last week we saw Korean stocks coming on chain. We see now the first Korean ETF coming on chain. So we have 2026 and possible to trade an ETF with leverage 24/7 on chain without KYC, just with your wallet. I can put money, I can trade, I can take it away, and I'm done. I don't need to like deposit money to my Interactive Brokers account, answer 30 different questions, and like all this back and forth. It is like we're getting to a point where Hyperliquid is this, like the arcade blockchain house of finance is this like nice buzz term, but more like your everything finance app. Like, okay, it used to be the case I just pitch Hyperliquid to other traders. Because if you're not trading crypto, why would you use Hyperliquid? Then, thanks to Unit, they integrated spot buys. So, okay, now I could show this to other people who said, hey, I just want to buy spot Bitcoin. I don't care about anything else. Even if you're the biggest Bitcoin maxi out there, Hyperliquid is the best venue for you to buy spot Bitcoin because it's the cheapest and it's no KYC and you can get it directly to your cold storage. So we had Perps for crypto, then we had spot. Now with HIP3, we have different other products at different markets. So we're getting to a point where it used to be the case that I need Hyperliquid and my stockbroker, Hyperliquid and my bank account. And now I have Hyperliquid. I have a credit card that can tap into my Hyperliquid account. I have the ability to trade stocks on Hyperliquid. So why should I use anything else? So we're getting closer and closer to that like vision of the team.
Speaking of the Hyper EVM and like integrating a Hyperliquid credit card into your life, what would you say are the projects that are the most exciting to you right now in the broader ecosystem?
There's a bunch of interesting projects. I think Hyper-EVM is often misunderstood. Like people kind of expected Hyper-EVM to be perfect from day one, which is kind of naive, to be honest. Like if you think about how long it took on ETH to like on the Ethereum ecosystem for anything really good to come, it took years. And now Hyper-EVM just turned 1 year old. And we've seen a lot of interesting projects like the basics. So if you're completely new to Hyperliquid and Hyper-EVM, if you have Hype and you want to borrow against it, you can do it with Hyperland or like HyperFi. There are like different places to do that. If you want to swap your Hype for other tokens, you can do that on Project X or also HyperSwap, or like I think Liquid.ai is like an aggregator for different swap actions. So that's just the basics. But what I like right now is called Risk Finance. I'm not affiliated. I just met the team like a year ago and they pivoted from building on Arbitrum to building on Hyperliquid. And it's just the perfect story for why building on Hyper-EVM is a great idea. So what is Risk Finance doing? They're doing options. Nobody cares about options, but they make it easy. Okay, yeah, perfect. You see the website, they make it easy for you to basically say, okay, I want to sell a covered call or a cash secured put option. And these two features allow us to earn money on our assets. And the beauty of this is that it enables strategies that wouldn't be able on any other venue than Hyperliquid. Because if you go back to like their main site, you can see I can like earn money with covered calls on assets like Pump Fund token. I can sell covered calls on Pump Fund token. Like it's basically unheard of that you can like do stuff like that on chain and earn USDT with that. And also with the cash secured put, it's just a great way to basically buy assets for cheap. So you just set a price where you are willing to buy Bitcoin for, and if we go down to that price, you buy Bitcoin. And if not, you earn on your USDT and you get your USDT back. So basic cash secured put.
So for the people who are not that familiar with options, to walk through that real quick. Essentially, if you, for example, said you are willing to sell unit pump on March 27th, so in roughly a month, at a 0.18 cents, and you get a annualized return in terms of premium of 120% on that. So that means that if pump drops below that, you are selling it at that price, or how does it work for those not familiar with options?
Okay. So we have basically two features. The one you have right now is the covered call. So with this, I have to deposit. Maybe you turn to not pump, but maybe pick Bitcoin, so people can have it easier to. Oh yeah, here you have UBTC. So we have 4 different strike prices, and I can deposit Bitcoin into this. So we have, I think, 70K, 75, 80K, and 84K. And basically, I can decide at which price I'm happy to sell my Bitcoin on the 27th of March, like in 29 days. So I put Bitcoin into this. And if I pick the like 80K strike, I get 6.6% APR. which isn't that much, but I mean, you still earn money or a yield on Bitcoin, and you have to put Bitcoin in here, and either you get your Bitcoin back, like if Bitcoin doesn't reach your strike price, like the 80K you picked, or you get the 4,000 USDT for the Bitcoin that is sold at 80K plus the APR. But the beauty is you get the APR upfront. So today, if I put like 0.05 Bitcoin, I get this 6.6% APR upfront, which is $17. I know it isn't that much, but like the principle is still interesting. And so the covered call is interesting for those of you who are sitting on a lot of tokens and basically want to find a way to earn money on it. But this is the important thing. You are happy to sell it. So if you have your Bitcoin and you say, I've never want to sell my Bitcoin, this is not right for you.
Yeah.
But if you say, okay, I'm happy to sell my Bitcoin at 84K, because I'm not thinking that Bitcoin goes to this price until 27th of March, and I'm happy to earn the USDT and just get my Bitcoin back, then this is interesting for you.
Yeah.
But even if you don't want to sell your assets, the other part is interesting, the cash secured put. You can go to that. Yeah. So here it's the same thing, but just flip-sided. So I put USDT and I decide, okay, at what price am I happy to buy Bitcoin on the 27th of March? So you could put like 2,950 USDT in here, and also pick again a strike you're happy with, like 51K, 54, 59, or 65. And depending on that, you get to earn on the USDT. Like if you would pick the 65 on here, you get 42% APR on the USDT. So if you pick it, yeah, you get the 42% upfront. Oh, now it just jumped up to 51% upfront on this USDT. So you get about $130 USDT upfront. And the same thing, if Bitcoin goes to 65 and on the 27th, you buy Bitcoin with the USDT that you put into this. If not, you get your USDT back and you got the 130 USDT upfront. What's the risk here? Like I have USDT, and the like worst thing that could happen is, okay, Bitcoin never goes back to 65 and will just keep going higher, then I kind of am sidelined and have to I get the money back. But I mean, you could hedge this because the 130 USDT I get upfront, I could use to go into a directional Bitcoin long already. I don't have to wait for the 65. Yeah.
So these are European style option where the only date that matters is March 27th. So essentially, if you're to put that into context of a broader accumulation strategy, if you the cash secured, the covered calls are probably interesting if you think we'll see a relief rally, but you're overall still bearish, let's say for the majority of 2026. So you want to exit on a bounce, let's say at 80K. So you kind of, instead of just putting a limit sell order on some exchange where you probably have to pay a fee and you don't receive anything upfront, obviously, you can earn a bit of yield on that. And the cash secured put is interesting if you think you will likely dip lower over the next couple of weeks and months. And you would have been willing to accumulate Bitcoin, let's say, at 59,000 anyway, and now you earn something on top.
Yeah, exactly. So I know that options isn't the most interesting topic, but why I like this is because it shows what's possible if you understand Hyperliquid, if you understand the core writer of Hyperliquid, because they are able to hedge the options that they allow you to sell on Hyperliquid. So it's in a way just the liquidity of Hyperliquid makes it possible to build a product like this. Yeah, we have seen like options products for Bitcoin and also for ETH, but many of them had all the same issue, the classic chicken and egg problem we have in DeFi. You need liquidity, and if you don't have liquidity, you don't have users. If you don't have users, nobody will provide liquidity. And that's the beauty of Hyperliquid, that already they can tap into this like big liquidity. And yeah, I know many people that make a lot of money just using their like K-hype, selling the covered call on like some fantasy prices, because they say, hey, I'm happy to sell some of my hype at $40, $50. Like if you are right now at 28, I'm happy to sell there. And yeah, so that's just a nice example of what's possible on Hyper-EVM.
So basically, Risk is able to tap directly into the spot order books for all the unit assets and derive the liquidity from that.
Yeah.
Nice.
So maybe they're doing a better job in explaining the details of it, but they are using Hyperliquid on the one side, like internal, for they need to hedge every position, of course. So they do this via Perps directly on Hyperliquid, but they are able to do this thanks to the core writer. They are able to do this directly in the Hyper-EVM like smart contract. So that's how I understood it. I'm not the most technical person, but
Yeah. I think that options in general are almost a necessary condition for crypto to continue maturing. And I'm personally quite excited that some of the products there are finally taking off. I do think that Risk explains it in a way that is pretty easy to understand, even if people are not familiar with options beforehand. So yeah, certainly excited for that to grow and to bring also some new users in. Besides Risk, what else would you say is currently exciting you within the ecosystem?
there are many like smaller projects testing and like still in beta version, so I'm not too like confident sharing right now already, but I think we will see a lot of new fun stuff over the next few months. So yeah, HyperEVM, I think on the one side, the builders you meet, they are all really, really good. But it's also hard for people to build on Hyper-EVM right now because there are not that many users. There's not much support from like the core team. So shout out and respect for everybody that's still building on Hyper-EVM. And I still, they will, like, it will pay off for them for sure.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing you touched upon there, because I think it was on When Shift Happens recently where Jeff also said something in the direction of Hyperliquid is not a company. And I would say that over the past year or two, it has become very apparent that the core team is not the most like out there communicative. I mean, they publish great weekly updates, etc., in the Hyperliquid news, like Telegram channel, etc. But it is probably not the easiest one to get a hold of and to like directly collaborate with. So a lot of the builders in the Hyper-EVM ecosystem are somewhat on their own, and it, I would say, is rather challenging in contrast to having a very involved foundation or some like adjacent entity, for example, in Solana with the Solana super team. So would you say that this is a risk to the overall Hyper-EVM development? Or how do you think the standing and the perception of the core Hyperliquid team affects the development of the ecosystem going forward?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Like, I used to think that them being so, yeah, hard to reach is like a problem, but it turned out to rather be the feature than the bug, because it attracts a certain type of builder. Because there are no like grants to enjoy or like do the usual bullshit entrepreneur lifestyle to, yeah. We've seen on many ecosystems.
You're saying that the remote team on Bali is not going to build the future of finance? I can't believe that.
Exactly. So what I've seen is that the HyperEVM ecosystem, while they maybe don't get much support from the core team, they're really supportive, like with each other. So I've been to different hackathons, to like the UK hackathon for Hyperliquid. This wasn't sponsored by Hyperliquid. Like, I think the core team didn't even know this happens. But naturally, we have a couple of big builders on Hyperliquid, and they are happy to sponsor and to push this forward. So it's a mixed bag, because if you're really new and want to build on Hyperliquid and like build a Hyper-EVM project, it's definitely not the easiest place to build something. And you need to like find funding, and this is also possible. Like, there are big and good VCs also funding projects in Hyper-EVM, and I'm not hating on VCs. I know it's popular, but if you're a small project and need funding, you should like raise. So what will be interesting is Hyper-EVM is now 1 year old, and we've seen some usage. We've also seen some TGEs. Hyperland just had their TGE today, and we will see that most of these tokens have rather underperformed hype. This is, of course, a bit frustrating for everybody that farmed those Hyper-EVM projects, but I think it's also necessary to realize that this Hyperliquid airdrop was once of a lifetime. Like, this was just to have this kind of entitlement of users. Okay, I just do some swaps and this and that, and I get like 100k airdrop, is not that healthy. And it also is a problem for builders in the ecosystem, because yeah, it's rough to build with this assumption of users. So overall, I think HyperEVM is now in a good place. And I would also argue, even without having an ecosystem fund for builders, like on a net level, HyperEVM probably has achieved at least as much, if not even more, than other projects that have like 200 million, 300 million, 500 million ecosystem funds. And that's also the feedback I got from the Hyper-EVM builders. Of course, some have been frustrated with just, the market and having not that many users you compete for. But they also said they prefer this, like this kind of rough, hard builder mode, to all the politics you have with, Arbitrum DAOs and stuff like that. Risk is a great example. They have been live on Arbitrum before. It took them 3 years to achieve 3 million in TVL. Then they pivoted to Hyperliquid, and it took them like 6 months to go to 40 million TVL. So, I know that this comparison is a bit like you need more nuance on that, but overall, people prefer to not have this politics, internal, who knows who kind of bullshit, and prefer to build it like it is on Hyper-EVM.
Yeah, I much agree on the same things you said there. I think over the past 2 to 3 weeks, we have seen quite a few ecosystem foundations announcing new grant programs. I think Monad was a very prolific one. I also think that either Arbitrum or Optimism, like a bunch of chains have been doing that. And also what I noticed during ETH Denver last week was that Hyperliquid is the only chain and the only ecosystem where people still want to build on it for the sake of the ecosystem itself.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, it is more treated as a means to an end. It's based on transaction fees, maybe if you're getting a grant there, but there's no inherent loyalty to the ecosystem. So while on the one hand, that is obviously a massive advantage in the like buy-in and alignment around the Hyper-EVM, I still think that the Hyper Eco is not yet at a stage where it offers something that is sufficiently differentiated from other ecosystems. If you're looking at either ETH mainnet, if you're looking at Monad, if you're looking at some of the L2s, if you're looking at Solana, the types of applications you have there are still largely the same. With that, I'm not implying that you don't need these applications. I mean, it's always good to have like a stable coin plus like a liquidity-esque, liquidation mechanism, stuff like Felix. You want to have a lending market. You want to have liquid staking derivatives. You want to have options protocols. You want to have all of these things. But there needs to be something that helps the Hyper-EVM to be set apart, because otherwise they are essentially competing with other chains that are largely equal in terms of technical features, in terms of the capabilities of what you can build there. Plus, these other chains are now throwing away their last available like foundation grants because they're desperately trying to onboard builders. So yes, on the one hand, you are attracting people with higher conviction into Hyperliquid. On the other hand, life is more difficult over there than maybe on some other chain. So yeah, I'm wondering how the whole ecosystem is going to develop. But maybe with the introduction of HIP4, also the launch of the Hyperliquid policy donation in the US, what do you think will be the verticals of growth going forward? Are you leaning more on the, okay,
So
Hyperliquid will differentiate out on the DeFi side? Will it be prediction markets, or will it just be perps on different financial instruments?
I think it's really hard to say. So we see Perps is the product. I mean, Hyperliquid, they prove that they can do Perps, and we've seen many cases last year where also Hyperliquid has been the place of price discovery for Perps, and they will still they will keep doing that. I think HRP4 is a big unlock, not just for prediction markets. I mean, that's the obvious thing. Like, okay, can they compete with Kalshi and Polymarket? We will see, but there is also the factor of trust. Like with Polymarket, we've seen all this insider stuff with Kalshi as well. So if you have a place where you make it harder, I don't know if it's like if you can make it impossible to those kind of insider stuff, but to make it at least harder, I think Hyperliquid has a good place to become that. The policy thing in the US was really, really important. I was surprised that it took so long. I think many people, me included, wanted them to do this earlier, maybe last year, because that was the one thing I heard about other competitors, like Lighter, for example. Like Lighter, they have all these big VCs and they have Coinbase and others on board, so they have this lobby power in the US to pull off, and Hyperliquid doesn't have that. So now with this new policy in the US, their approach to basically have a lobby for Hyperliquid in the US, I think it's needed to compete at any level. We will see if it's enough to compete, but yeah, I think it's a good move in the right direction. And I think over the last few weeks, we've seen a lot of answers to questions around Hyperliquid. There's still some things that people aren't as sure of, I hate this, but the token unlocks, everybody is talking about the token unlocks, and the team kind of showed that they're not even using that many tokens. And now I think for February they unlocked 100K tokens instead of 10 million. Then they also did this last month. So we see the token unlocks getting smaller, but there's not this on if Jeff does one tweet and say we no longer do 10 million unlocks, we do 150K per month for the next year, and then we'll see whatever, just one clear message. I think a lot of this uncertainty would be gone. Yeah, in terms of growth, I think we're still super early. We will see, and this was more discussion last year, if Hyperliquid will turn off their front end at some point. I don't see this happening, at least in the next few years. But what we see is that we see a lot of more integrations, like builder codes. We have now 600 different projects using builder codes to integrate Hyperliquid. We've seen MetaMask, Grabby, all the different wallet providers integrating Hyperliquid. So this is one growth venue. We have HRP4 coming with Outcome. Now I just saw a tweet about HRP6 ideas. So there's never a boring day in Hyperliquid.
Would you say that the positioning of the Hyperliquid core team also affects your standing as like a leading voice and influencer, so to say, in the Hyperliquid eco. Because if you look at some other ecosystem, for example, the Monad team is very active on Twitter. For Base, you have Jesse. And I would say that somewhat similar to Ethereum in the past years, where the foundation kind of took a like back step when it came to like communicating and like giving guidelines. I think that was an almost necessary condition for entities like Bankless or a lot of like the notorious like ETH voices and like who've generally like shaped the conversation around it to rise to the position that they are in right now. So would you say that maybe this is also an opportunity for you and the other people who are very public in the Hyperliquid eco to shape and influence how things will go forward with the broader ecosystem?
Honestly, I wouldn't like to put content or produce content around or about a project where the founder is always tweeting, because that's not your job as a founder. Like, and I don't understand why so many founders in crypto are that busy on Twitter. Like, please build your product, make sure it works, make it better, but don't talk about making something, just do it. Sorry. So it is for sure a chance for people to share knowledge, but you have also, I think, Hyperliquid, like the bar is pretty high, not just for projects building on Hyper-EVM. Like, we've seen some like people trying to extract value, and for some it worked, but mostly it's like it's not a good idea to try that. And it's also the same for content creation, I would say. Like, you have to take it seriously. You have to, like, yeah, just put a real effort into it. And then that's the beauty of Hyperliquid. If you're serious, you will get a lot of positive feedback. You will get a lot of support from builders. Like, when I started, I wouldn't dream of getting like feedback from big founders, like where projects are worth millions or even have like billions in TVL. And like, you think, okay, I just do one tweet or like one video, and I don't think much of it. So that's the beauty of Hyperliquid, that if you are serious, you will get a lot of support. Yeah. And I mean, there's no competition right now.
How do you view the competitive landscape in the perp DEX space? I mean, also since some of the competitors of Hyperliquid have either hinted or clearly announced that they're also moving on their own chain and trying to build an own ecosystem around. Do you see any of them as like genuine competitors, or do you really think that there's still a very large gap in terms of like product quality and the tech stack?
I think it depends on like who's the user. Like, there are users that probably for them lighter is a good idea to trade on. I don't know, maybe. But in terms of competition, I think we need to focus more on like how does the pie grow for everyone. Like, yeah, competition, we will see a lot of TGEs for other perp dexes. We've seen lighter. We will see others. We will see variational. We will see extended. And honestly, if you have the time, now maybe it's a bit late, but it's still a good idea to farm those projects. And I don't blame anybody for like trying that, because that's how you make the money in crypto. Nobody makes a big amount of money just by trading or like doing the one big investment. Like, the big money is in the airdrops and still is in the airdrops, but it just got harder to farm for sure. It will be interesting to see what kind of valuations those projects can achieve. Yeah, in terms of their own blockchain, I think at the end it's all about the distribution. Nobody cares like what blockchain you use. Like, if Lido does their own blockchain, if Variational does their own blockchain, if they find a way to integrate it in apps that are used, then people will maybe use it, but nobody will just like go there just for the blockchain's sake. We've seen this. I mean, we've seen this with others, like all the layer 2 grays with Optimism, with Arbitrum. We've seen it with Mega ETH, with, yeah, whatever.
on a higher level, which other projects beside can be inside or outside the Hyperliquid eco are you also bullish on, or maybe even a bag holder of?
Backhold of many. It's just like if you're in crypto for some time, you will end up holding some bags, because the thing what I mentioned and in the beginning of this conversation is that there's many great projects, but token design is a different story. And in Hyperliquid, I've some positions, but like the biggest position is for sure Hype. And then with Kinetic and maybe some other smaller stuff I played around with, but nothing crazy. And outside of Hyperliquid, I also focus on the DeFi stuff that I understand. And I think my approach that I had before Hyperliquid just got a bit more extreme. Like before Hyperliquid, I wanted projects to make good money. I wanted them to like use that money in a smart way, be it buybacks, be it like staking possibilities, like just something, not the Uniswap fantasy you have out there. So that's now, so yeah, I have Hype, I mentioned, and then outside of this Hyperliquid ecosystem, I would say Panel is one thing. They just did their new design, which the funniest story, I asked the founder, like I think it was probably 1.5 years ago on an event when they will finally get rid of VE, and he was not like, he hinted something, but it wasn't like, yeah, you have to be careful as a founder, and I understand. So
And when I had Right Side from Pendle on the pod yesterday, he told me that the whole S Pendle revamp was in the works for over a year. So yeah, probably a very complex to undertake, which is somewhat almost like unreasonable to see from the outside. Like you ask yourself, how can it take a year to design or redesign tokenomics? But yeah, I mean, we given that we are still in a very experimental phase of the industry, yeah, I guess things just like take much longer to actually figure out than we often hope for.
Yeah. I think as an investor, you often make the mistake of thinking, oh, it's just this move and it's easy. Why they don't just do that? If your token is live, it's really difficult to change something. Like if Hyperliquid, if they didn't start with the buybacks from the beginning and they now wanted to integrate buybacks, it would be really, really difficult for them to pull it off. So big respect to the panel team for like understanding the problem with the VE. And to be fair, they also have been one of the first back then to introduce the VE model. So they have been innovative in itself, in the product. I'm also a big fan of the panel product, not just to farm kinetic points, but but also for other stuff. So yeah, panel is one of those things where I think is a good idea to have some. Of course, no financial advice. Do whatever you want with your money. But yeah. And on other DeFi projects, I look at the same. I look at, okay, are they making money? Are they using it for buybacks? Yeah, Syrup is something that does that. So I also have some of that. But to be honest, we are in a phase right now in a pair market where a lot of those projects are getting cheap again, but you have to have like a long-term time horizon. That's the main problem I see with people in crypto. Usually they enter the market at the peak or top, and then they expect things for to go higher and higher, and then they're frustrated if their bags didn't 10x in 3 months. Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
think
I'm
there's
not like,
a lot of
yeah.
agreement among the people who bring somewhat traditional angle to valuing and identifying good coins. I mean, it's always hype. Everybody likes Pendle, everybody likes Syrup, everybody likes Aerodrome. Sometimes you throw like a Sky Maker or an Aave in there. I mean, Aave has seen a couple of like down weeks with all the governance drama going on, but it's always the same names. And these
Yeah.
are inevitably the products in DeFi that actually work, that people actually like. But for many of them, I really hope that they'll be able to figure out that discrepancy between the value the product creates for the industry and the still often lacking value accrual back to the token. Because like these are amazing projects. Like everybody likes them. They are not the ones who are, building the fifth or sixth launch pad and just extracting money out of the industry. So like these are the ones we genuinely want to see.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard also if you're like the outside perspective on crypto. I mean, in most cases, they're right. Like this view of there's Bitcoin and everything else is trash. I mean, in many cases, they're right, and I don't blame that. So it takes a lot of time to kind of look for value outside, like besides Bitcoin. And even then, if your timing is bad, you still will underperform. So it's definitely a difficult market, and I see it also on the reach of my tweets, of course. Like if hype is going up, of course it's fun to tweet about the buybacks, to tweet about like here hype is making more fees than whatever company and this and that. If the price goes down, nobody cares. This can be frustrating, but it's also like a chance for people to accumulate good projects that will be around. And yeah, I mean, you need patience for sure, but I think usually if you deploy when everybody is saying that now crypto is dead, when we need to pivot to AI, and what's your newest Claude bot that you build, usually it's a good idea to deploy into these times and not if everybody is now entering the crypto industry and says, okay, now I want to build a DeFi project, because nobody wants to do that right now.
Hmm. Maybe as one last topic to walk through. So ASXN, they have published a pretty nice dashboard on various Hyperliquid metrics. Since you are in the HL trenches every single day, what are the metrics you are looking on frequently, and what informs your decision on what you perceive as either like a fair valuation of the hype token, but also as useful indicators to assess the activity and the growth of the ecosystem at large?
So I like to check the HIP3 dashboard they have. It's pretty good to just see, okay, what like the what's the overall volume, open interest on there, but also to see the innovation in the markets. Um, Around the valuation of hype itself, there was a really great website by Squager. Unfortunately, I think it's no longer supported. He had this um he had a way to not just put the PE ratio, so we can all the TradFi people, they love looking at these fundamentals. We have a PE ratio for hype, which is right now at about 8 if you take the market cap. If you take the FTV, it's a different story, but if you take market cap, it's about 8. And there was a way to not just use this number, but to have the so-called ready to sell supply. So we what you do there is you take not just the circulating supply, but you basically subtract all the stake type, all the HIP, like hype in HIP3, which is locked. And yeah, basically you come to a lower number. This was an interesting website. I'm like last time I checked, it's not working anymore, but yeah, on Hyperliquid itself or on the ASXN, I like the HIP3, and I also check, of course, their revenue data, where you can also basically see, okay, yeah, there you go, revenue. Oh, this is fees for Hyper-EVM. Yeah, this one. So you can see the total supply that has been bought back. You see total revenue, and then if you go down, you also see like the daily revenue buybacks. So yeah, we see that they're quite like still doing good numbers, and also even from the beginning of the year, they're already like up, I think, a good amount on the percentage of bought back hype. If you go up, there's the like overall total supply bought, and they're up like right now at I think 4.14% already on total supply. and of circulating supply, we are like 13% or something. So yeah, good numbers for like, I mean, Hype TGE is like now a bit more than 1 year, but yeah. So and on valuing Hype, I know there is this like, at least there was one time on crypto Twitter when it was popular to like say, okay, Hype compared to BNB and compared to ETH and compared to Solana. I mean, it's a good milestone. I think there will be a point where Hype will probably surpass BNB. If it's because Hype is growing that much or BNB is going down that much, we will see. But I think we will see this dethroning of BNB as the biggest exchange token. And but those comparisons, the numbers aren't that crazy, to be honest. Like if you take the FTV, Hype versus BNB is just still a lot, but 3x for Hype compared to BNB. So that's not a crazy number. So we will see what other comparisons make sense. I mean, if Hyperliquid becomes the Nasdaq, then we have like the on-chain Nasdaq, then we have a different story. Yeah, but overall, I just checked the numbers on these dashboards, and as long as like we see the core numbers, like core user numbers, HIP3 and other stuff still going up, I'm still bullish on Hype.
I very much like the optimism here. We're very close to hitting the hour, so maybe as one last question, which are the top 3 people when projects can be Hyperliquid eco related, but doesn't have to be, who you would also like to see on the pod?
Top 3 people are Omnia from Kinetic, one of probably the best builders you could interview. Hype Economist, I'm not sure if he's open to interviews, but he's a great guy. I met him in person. He's from the same town where I grew up, so it's a small world. And third person, there are many great accounts around Hyperliquid. Maybe Huff from Pair Protocol. He's also like building on Hyperliquid, great TradFi background. He worked for Deutsche Bank for 10 years. So as an equities trader, so he can maybe like make a good comparison of TradFi and Hyperliquid.
I've followed him for years. I think ever since I entered crypto in 2021, or ever since he started publishing content. I think Pair Protocol is, especially for market conditions like this, a very underrated tool. I know the 1000X guys, Avi and Jonah, they've been talking about Pair Protocol a few times on the recent episodes, but I still think like the way the tool is set up, it deserves a lot more usage than it sees right now.
I agree.
Very nice. It was amazing having you on. I enjoyed our episode a lot. Any last thoughts or any top of points where people can find you and how they can reach out?
For sure. Thank you for having me. It was a great time. I'm mostly on Twitter. Like there, I share all my stuff at Reisner Tobias, so you can find me on there. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for having me.
Great. We'll make sure to include all the links in the podcast description. Thanks again for coming on. It was great having you, and hopefully see you back on the pod very soon.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.